Hello again everyone and welcome back to Skyblock News. I'm your host Derailious and today we're going to be going over some Crimson changes that are currently on the Alpha network that will really change how you play the game. Before we get into this, I just want to say we are getting relatively close to 75k. So if you could leave a like and subscribe down below, that really would mean a ton. Without any further ado though, let's launch right into this.
Hey guys, Jade here. Don't forget to use code RAIL in the Hypixel store for 5% off your order. It means the world to us and it helps more than y'all know. Bye!
Starting off, they've added combat requirements and Kudra clear requirements to all Kudra armor sets. So each tier of Kudra armor now requires the completion of that respective Kudra difficulty. This is totally reasonable in my book. If you want to use Infernal armor, I would hope that you have done Infernal Kudra at least once. The Hollow Wand and Aurora Staff now requires the completion of Kudra and Combat 22, once again completely reasonable requirements. The Aurora Helmet has been buffed to match and exceed the strength of Wither Goggles at higher tiers, making it no longer useless. I really like this change. Going in game, this is more related to ability strength, which has been added as a modifier here, so now you get more ability damage for using an Aurora Helmet. And I believe at 15-star Infernal, I think that's at 50%, which should make it just objectively stronger than Wither Goggles at that tier. Magic damage no longer interacts with Crimson armor, you can no longer gain Crimson stacks through magic damage, and magic damage no longer procs swipes. Totally reasonable in my opinion, this just needed to happen. The stat bonuses from Blaze Tech Ham Radio are now only active in the Crimson Isle and the Kudra Hollow. Once again, totally reasonable change. I understand why they did this. More items have been unsoulbound, and this is where it gets interesting. Corrupted Fragments, the Lava Shell, and all attribute shards have been unsoulbound. If you are keeping track of this, that means pretty much everything in the Crimson Isle has been unsoulbound. Thank God. I'm very excited about this attribute shard change. This will make it so players have easier access to get their hands on god rolls and things of that nature, and now if you have the money, you will be able to purchase them way easier than before. Really nice changes. In terms of some other things that are going on, the Blaze Slayer distillates have been added to the Slayer sack, and the Blaze Slayer distillates now all have equal weights in the Blaze Slayer drop pool. Gabagool distillate was previously a little bit rarer due to not being affected by Magic Find. That has been rectified. They've also moved the lava fishing category to woods and fishes, which makes sense in my opinion, and they fixed an issue where Crimson Swipe dealt 1,000 times more damage than intended. That is pretty funny. They've also fixed Trophy Fish chance being boosted by sources that buff all stats, and they adjusted the recipes of the Empty Storm and Empty Hurricane bottles. They've also adjusted the recipe for the Travel Scroll to the Smoldering Tomb, and they've made some changes to mob spawning in the Crimson Isle, generally just moving things around and trying to make things make more logical sense. There also is a few plan changes here. The Diamond Trophy Hunter Magma Fish reward will be claimable retroactively, which is really nice. The abilities and damage scaling of all Kudra sets will be adjusted as necessary. Fervor and Aurora armor abilities will be activated on Sneak instead of auto-activated, and they've added or will add Tentacle Meat to the Hell Wisp loot pool. Once again, really good changes all throughout. I've got to say, I love the direction they're taking the Crimson Isle here. I think the big problem that a lot of the community had with it was that the Crimson Isle was just too separated. It felt entirely separated from the rest of the game, and a lot of the things that you would pick up in the Crimson Isle, you either couldn't use in other parts of the game, and you effectively had to treat it like an Iron Man profile. And many players, a good 80 to 85% of them, just don't want to play Iron Man. They just don't want to. They don't want to participate in it. They want to be able to buy things on the bazaar, and I say, well, why not let them? This is going to be a great step in the right direction. Unsoulbinding many of these items. I think the attribute shard change is amazing. I love the buff to Aurora Helmet. It's going to be stronger than Wither Goggles, which is going to be incredibly nice. Just good changes all throughout. I hope we keep this momentum until the update releases, because I've got to say this update is just getting better and better day after day. And honestly, I think it has the potential to be the best update that we've seen this year. I do think this update is going to be especially great for mid-game and early game players, people who are just getting involved in Skyblock. things like late game slayers are once again going to be way more accessible to these players, and I'm really excited to see what ends up happening in a few months when these players get access to things like advanced Kudra armor sets. Now, I have heard some complaints from a few people in the community that are like, oh, this will make the game too easy. I think that this is going to make it so simple for someone to get good armor, and I still kind of disagree. And the main reason I disagree is that many of the components of this armor are still going to be relatively expensive, especially the Crimson Essence. And the other thing is, if players are going to spend a lot of money that they've earned from mining, from farming, to get this armor, so be it. They're still going to have to put in the work to get good at the content, and even with a good set of armor, even with a max set of armor, a lot of things in this game will still be difficult for those players if they're not completely brain dead. And I think that that is a good thing. It's not like these players are going to put on their first set of like Burning Crimson, whatever, and they're going to immediately stomp Blaze Slayer. That's just not going to happen. And frankly, if they are stomping Blaze Slayer, then they're good enough to do it anyway. And I have no problem with those players being able to access the gear from Blaze Slayer, because I'm going to be honest, the content's been out for 2 years now, and I really do think that we should be looking forward to new content and not really gatekeeping content that's been out for years. Hopefully this also expands the pool of players in Kudra. I know a lot of Kudra players are incredibly excited about this update, and I am very excited too, and this will give me the opportunity to actually get involved in Kudra, which I am personally excited for. So once again, I know this was long and windy, but thank you, admins. Overall, with all the good Kudra changes and other changes to the Crimson Isle, I hope this update is able to release relatively soon. At the end of the day though, my name's Derailious, thank you so much for watching this video till the end, and look to the future fellas, I'll see you then.